Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Horror Ram. I'm Travis Bruce, and listen, we're back for another Women of Horror Spotlight. Today, I have a returning guest. By the way, you can also see her on this channel as my co-host, or am I the co-host, on the Paranormal Experience. Definitely check that out on YouTube. Some new episodes coming up soon. And she's also an author, and she has a new book that you can find on rawdogscreaming.com. Hopefully, I don't get flagged for that because that sounds like a porn site. And it's called Blood Cypress. I have with us Elizabeth Broadbent. Elizabeth, welcome back to the realm.
Thanks for having me, Travis. It's good to be back.
Yes, it's great to be back. I missed you. We haven't done a Paranormal Experience in a while, and I know a lot of people love that show, and they've been asking about it, and I've been telling them, calm down. We're going to have some more episodes coming up soon.
No, I've been slammed. I was with Blood Cypress coming out. I was at Ghoulish Book Festival in San Antonio, and then 2 weeks later, I was at AuthorCon in Williamsburg, and I've been slammed ever since then. And then now I'm headed this weekend to Fredericksburg for Horror Reader Weekend, and then the weekend after that, I have a book launch at Vortex Books in Pennsylvania. So I am basically doing book launch stuff, which is why we have not been filming the Paranormal Experience, because I have been everywhere right now, just kind of traveling, trying to get the word out about Blood Cypress. So when I'm home, I'm kind of collapsed on my couch, box breathing and attempting to find some kind of inner peace in the middle of traveling up and down the Eastern Seaboard, basically.
Well, listen, I totally feel you on this. We're going to jump into Blood Cypress. I totally feel it. So the beginning of each month is when I film all my content for the future for the beginning of the month, right? I mean, for the rest of the month. And by week 2, I am absolutely drained. I still have interviews that go on to the end of the month, but I am absolutely drained once I get to that final, that end road of each month. But then the shit starts all over again. So, I mean, writing, I can imagine as an author, you're out here now, you finish the book. Now, that's only the first part. That's the beginning. Now you have to go out there and market. You have to do book conventions. You have to do readings. You have to do signings. And I think a lot of new authors don't realize that. They think you can just write a book, put it on social media, and boom, here comes the sales.
Oh yeah, no, a lot of new authors think, okay, I'm gonna write this book and I'm gonna send it to the publisher and it's gonna be done. And it's like, oh no, baby. Oh no, honey, you're not done yet. You didn't even start yet. Because you send that book to the publisher and then you have to start doing all the lead up promo, and then that book comes out and you have to keep doing promo. And now I'm on a book tour, which is amazing. I mean, it's amazing. I'm basically going everywhere to talk about Blood Cypress, and I love it. I love meeting people. I love signing books. I love doing readings. I love doing interviews like this. I mean, it's phenomenal. Do not get me wrong. This is so much fun to do. I'm thrilled to be here. I'm going to be thrilled to be in Fredericksburg this coming weekend. I'm so excited to go up to Vortex in Pennsylvania and see Brian and Mary. I'm reading with Todd Kiesling. I love Todd. I'm excited to see all my friends. But at the same time, you just get tired. You just, you get, I mean, I'm neurodivergent. I get burnt out no matter how many, how much I love seeing people, because I need to see people, but I just get burnt out on it, so you've been at a convention all day, you kind of walk upstairs and face plant, and then you wake up and you're like, okay, I'm going to do it all again now. Yeah. And then you do it again all day. It was fun when I was at AuthorCon. Jamie Flanagan was my emotional support human the whole time. I love them to pieces. And I spent all my time hanging out with Jamie because I think they were also a little bit oh God, there are a lot of people here. And I was like, oh God, there are a lot of people here. So we were kind of with each other the whole time. Do we need to leave? We're going to smile right now. We're going to smile even though there's 30 people in this room and they're all looking at us. It was really nice to have them there. I love Jamie to pieces. They're an amazing human. So they were my rock during AuthorCon with all those people there.
Because I know it must be intimidating because back in the day, I did like home improvement sales, and like I would
Mhm.
be, and I would have to go to like the fair, or they would get a booth at the fair or wherever, and like you're like trying to get people, hey, come over, do you need some new windows? And people are like, oh, leave me the fuck alone. I want to just go get a hot dog or something. It must be intimidating to be an author. I know people are there for it, but you have to. When I go to a convention as a just walking through, the authors that get me, the ones that get me to purchase their book or have interest, are the ones who jump out and say, hey, come on over, let me tell you about my book. But that has to be a little intimidating doing that over and over and over again.
Nope. Somebody walks by, you're like, hey, how are you? And I'm a little Southern girl, so I have my little dress on, and I'm in black today. I don't wear black at the conventions because every other girl wears black, so
Yeah.
I can't do that. I wear my little Lily Pulitzer dresses, and I have my pearls on. They walk by, I stand up, I say, hey, and they come over, and I start talking. I ask them what they're doing, ask them how they're doing. How are you? Are you having a good day today? Oh, what do you like to read? Oh, this is my book. This is what I write. And then we start talking, and we keep talking, and we keep talking,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what
So
you do
important.
all damn day. You just keep talking to people, and you might make a sale, and you might not, but it really kind of doesn't matter. And that's kind of the weird part that I don't think people understand is it's not so much about making these sales as it is connecting with readers.
Mm-hmm.
You go to these places, you go to these conventions, and it's not so much, am I going to sell this book today? As, am I going to sell myself today?
Yes.
Are they going to walk out saying, hey, I had a great conversation with Elizabeth Broadbent, and she was really cool. I got her card. I'm going to read her books now. Maybe I didn't have enough money to buy her book today, but I'm going to remember her name. And that's the key right there. That's it. That's what you want.
And
And then
that's
you're
so
walking around.
important.
Yep. That's what you need, and that doesn't make it fake. And that's the other thing people don't understand is it's not a fake thing. Because I say that and people are going, oh God, she's so fake. No, I genuinely love people. I genuinely love to talk to people. I genuinely love to reach out to people. So if somebody comes up to my table and they say, hey, I like sci-fi. I love sci-fi too. So I want to talk to you about sci-fi. I want to talk to you about the sci-fi you like. Somebody likes Tolkien. I'm like, let's talk about Tolkien. I like to come to these conferences in part because I do like to talk about books. I do like to talk about nerd stuff, quote unquote nerd stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing. You're in a room and you can say like, hey, so I can reference this random X-Files episode, Eugene Toombs, or I can say Lord Kinboat and you know what I'm talking about. Or I can say, oh, the show Outer Range and you know what I'm talking about. Like, that's such a gift. That's such an amazing thing to be in a room where people understand all these cultural references. You have this huge bank of cultural knowledge that you all share. So that's so much fun. That's such a blast. So I enjoy that genuinely. And, when you can connect with people on that level, they're going to remember you. They're going to remember who you are. And then they're going to read your books.
Now I don't know about you, but I can definitely sniff out someone who is a true horror fan or horror geek, and someone who is using horror as a way for whatever reason, to as a stepping stone to get to something else, because horror is a great entry level, whether it be
Mm-hmm.
filmmaking or writing. And like the ones who are like you, who are huge horror fans, horror geeks, like you're so passionate about it. But I've come across with interviews and even in person, individuals who are horror writers, horror filmmakers, and I just start talking to them about horror, and I'm like, is this person really into horror? Like you start questioning, like, why are they writing a horror book if you're not into horror?
You get that once in a while. You'll see that. You'll be like, why are you here? What are you doing? And I think a lot of people see it as easy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm scared of something. I'm going to write a scary book. They think it's easy. But the thing is, horror isn't easy.
No.
I spent 10 years writing, as a journalist, right? And when I wrote for Scary Mommy, I had millions of hits a month. It was the biggest parenting site out there, basically. I mean, I did mental health journalism and feminist journalism for an incredibly underserved audience. And at the same time, I was writing for Attitude Magazine. I was writing for the Washington Post. I did stuff for Time.com. I did stuff for GoodMorningAmerica.com. I mean, I was everywhere for a while. And so I had quite a pedigree when I stepped into horror. I mean, I have a huge resume. And I started because I was writing some weird surrealist poetry. And of course, it's horror poetry, right? So people snap that stuff up because, not a lot of people write it. And so when that started getting published, I thought, oh, I could do fiction again because I have an MFA in fiction. So I wrote some fiction. I started sending it out. No one took it. No one would take my fiction. And I started looking around and I started reading in the genre more, short stories. Because obviously I read, the longer side. I didn't read as much indie horror at the time. I was reading the more mainstream stuff at the time. Then I started reading more of the indie stuff and more of the real literary stuff. And I went, oh shit, this is where all the really, really, really good lit fic people went. Like the really good ones, the really talented ones. This is where they all went. I'm not good enough for this yet. Like, I'm really not good enough for this yet. And it took me 2 years to get good enough to get my novella published by Raw Dog Screaming. And that's Blood Cypress.
And let's
2 years.
That's a long time. Now, but like, I can imagine, like, especially as a writer, you go through those moments, especially writing that first book and going through the publishing phase and just trying to get your story out there. I can imagine that, like, there's a lot of ups and downs where there's times where you want to put that project down. You're like, okay, this is not for me. This is too hard. I mean, that doubt is in all of us.
I mean, there's a lot of doubt to a certain extent, but I'm tenacious as hell. I mean, honestly, like, that's the best way to put it. Like, I'm really tenacious. I've been doing this for a really long time, and I knew I could do it. And I knew I had a good story. With Blood Cypress, I knew I had a good story. I love that story. And so I just kept at it. I didn't necessarily keep at the same thing. So I had finished Blood Cypress, and I had it sitting before I found a place to sub it. So I did have it waiting. And then I worked on a novel, The Swamp Child, which is still on sub right now. It's been finished for a while, but it's looking for a bigger publisher. Because I did have it with a smaller one. I ended up pulling the rights because I had some other stuff that did really well. So it's currently with some agents and stuff like that right now. But, so that wasn't what I was doing for 2 years. I didn't just work on Blood Cypress for 2 years. But, I'm really tenacious, and I was like, I can do this. I know I can do this. Like, I'm not going to give up with this, so you just keep going. You're just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And you do have these moments though, with certain projects where you're like, the question is more not, can I do this? But is this particular work going to pan out? Yeah. And that's the pain. And that's the question that you as a writer have to struggle with. Like, is this particular work worth it? Is this particular thing worth finishing? And that's when you end up with 40,000 words you have to ditch. And that's always depressing when that happens.
Yeah. I can imagine. Now, when it came to Blood Cypress, what was it like? I mean, what does it feel like as an author to finally, after 2 years, finally get us out, Raw Dog Screaming Press, they pick it up. It's out there now people can get it in their hands. What does that feel like when you see people reviewing, reading, and commenting on your book?
Okay, it's been wild. Blood Cypress got accepted in I subbed it. They opened January 1st, 2023 for novellas. And Raw Dog Screaming Press has always been my favorite indie literary horror press. They're like the best literary horror press for indie horror, period. They're amazing. They've always been my favorite. They do Tim McGregor. They've done some wonderful stuff from him. They do wonderful horror poetry. Jennifer Barnes, the founding editor, has an amazing eye for just literary indie horror. They won more Stokers than pretty much any other indie horror press out there. And they were my dream press. They never do open submissions, ever. It's not a thing they do. So I had never thought that they would ever publish me until I got an agent. And then they put something out saying they were doing open submissions for novellas. And I think I was the first person that submitted mine. I think I hit that submission button on like 8 a.m. on January 1st. I think I got Blood Cypress in there. And they were supposed to let us know by like March 1st. Rhonda Jackson, Rhonda is amazing. RJ Joseph, she's a spectacular editor. She's the editor of The Line. And she and Jennifer are making the selections. And they were like, oh, we don't know yet. We have 2 or 3, but the rest are long listed. Here's the long list. I was on the long list. I was super excited. StokerCon rolls around in June. They still haven't picked. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I go to StokerCon in Pittsburgh and I meet them. And they're like, immediately, as soon as they see me, they give me these big hugs. They're like, oh, Liza, we loved your book. We loved your book. We're still deciding. We loved your book. And I'm dying inside. I'm like, oh my God, please take my book. I just want you to take my book. I love your stuff. Please take my book. But of course you can't say that, because you can't like beg the publisher to take your book. But they were so nice. And then I think it was like July 15th, I finally got the email that was like, we want to take Blood Cypress. And I was over the moon. And they're like, well, we're not going to publish till 2025. And I'm like, it's fine. I don't care. You're taking it. I don't care. Publish it. I don't care when you're going to publish it. But that was nice because it gave us a lot of lead time to do a lot of press with it. So Publishers Weekly reviewed it, and Publishers Weekly loved it. They talked about, like, I think they said Faulknerian unease were the first 2 words in the review, which was amazing. I love Faulkner. Faulkner is like my idol. So I like About Died. And they said it was coming of age fiction at its creepiest, which is amazing. Clay McLeod Chapman blurbed it and compared it to Flannery O'Connor and Michael McDowell. I think when Lee Murray, who has won 5 Stokers, compared it to Harper Lee's To Kill a Mockingbird, that was when I could have died happy. That was like, I'm just going to keel over and die right now. I'm just going to die happy. Like, that's the blurb that, like, I'm dead now, and it's okay. It's all right. I'm fine. So the reception has been amazing. After the Publishers Weekly review, the reception really picked up after that. And then they actually mentioned it again, which Publishers Weekly doesn't do. They had a thing come out about like speculative fiction that's kind of like genre bending. That came out about 2 weeks ago, and Blood Cypress was on their list. And they don't usually like shout out books twice. So that was like kind of shocking and really like, whoa, somebody there really liked this book, So that was really cool. And it's got mentions in Lit Reactor. I got a really great review from a blog without a face that I kind of want to frame because it's really just a great review. The wording is really spectacular. You remember when Patton Oswalt used to do movie reviews? Mm-hmm. It's like written like that.
Yes.
And
Oh, I
so
love
it's
it.
really amazing. And I'm like, oh God, this is just spectacular. So the reception has been amazing. And like when I went to AuthorCon and someone walked up to my table and said, oh, Blood Cypress, that's on my list to buy. I was like, oh, that's cool. Hi, nice to meet you. You know,
Wow.
because you want to keep the shock off your face, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Like, really? Yeah.
You're like, that's really cool. Hi, thanks. You know, you don't want to like fangirl over them fangirling over you. You know,
I would.
because you really want to, but you
Yeah.
don't. But like, it was weird because at AuthorCon, I had like a few people who are like legit like fans of mine, and I've like never had like, I mean, you do when I was a journalist, I had a few people that were like really into my stuff and would like email me all the time, but that was like over email.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was at a distance. That wasn't like people who were coming up to me. And so I did have a few like legit fans. And that was wild. That was never a thing I ever expected. So it was
See,
really cool.
that must be an awesome feeling. Like, I mean, I could imagine. I mean, even like with me, like I go to a lot of horror conventions and book conventions. I would love for someone to come and say, "Oh my goodness, I love your interviews." But do you know what I get, Eliza? I get you're the face of horror guy. That's what I'm known for. I'm like, oh, I don't want to be known for the face of horror scam. I want to be known for my interviews.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I'm known for something. So hey, I mean, it's a win-win. People are watching something.
Well, everybody assumes that because with Inkvine, because Emmy, the main character in Inkvine, Emmy, is from like the really rural South, right? They assume that I grew up like super poor in the really rural South, which I did. I didn't grow up in an actual trailer though. So people are like, you must have grown up in a trailer. I'm like, it wasn't a trailer, baby.
No.
Like that kind of thing. Like it's kind of like, okay, it wasn't like that bad. That kind of stuff. So there's a lot of identification with your characters that people like to think. So as an author, you walk that really fine line of like, how much do I let you believe because you like it, and how much do I kind of pull back from that? You know what I mean? There's a lot of tension right there. So you have to like walk that line. It's kind of interesting.
So, Eliza, tell us a little bit about Blood Cypress.
Well, Blood Cypress is set in the same town as my other Southern Gothics, Lower Congaree, South Carolina, which is right outside of Columbia. And it deals with a girl named Lila who is trapped in a house with her twin brother Quentin and her older brother Davis and her little brother Beau. And Beau has some kind of developmental disability. He's 10 years old. It's something like autism, but he's nonverbal. But because they're Southern and they're very down at the heels rich Southern. So her dad died and her mom didn't keep up the place, and so they've kind of like Southern gentility fallen into poverty basically. So they never treated her brother. They just keep him in the house. He doesn't go out. Like it would be rude to deal with it or talk about it. So Beau's in the house and her mom is basically like a ghost. She doesn't leave the house much. She doesn't do anything. She kind of fell apart when her dad died. So Lila and her brother Quentin have to kind of hold everything together and parent her brother, that kind of stuff. And her little brother goes missing. Beau wanders out of the house and they have to call the sheriff's department. Now Lila's bisexual. At the very least, she may be a lesbian. She doesn't know because she's 18 years old and she lives in this small Southern town and she's still trying to figure this all out. And her brother Quentin has long hair, and the sheriff's deputies don't really treat them well because of that. And you can imagine what small town sheriff's deputies would say about a long-haired 18-year-old boy and his short-haired twin sister. Mm-hmm. So the sheriff deputies show up, and they really hate their family. because their father's dead. They didn't keep up the place. And they have a developmentally disabled little brother, because Lila and Quentin are the way they are, and they think it's their mother's fault. So they have a lot of derision for the Carson family. So when they show up and they're like, you need to find Bo, they're like, yeah, we're not going in that swamp that you think they wandered into, okay? No, we don't do that. Because there's a lot of legends about the swamp in that area and how men go in and don't come out. And so the sheriff's deputies are basically homophobic assholes to Quentin and Lila. And Lila's really trapped between dealing with her brothers, dealing with these sheriff deputies, and wanting to find her little brother who is like alone in this swamp, this terrible probably haunted swamp, and these men are not going out to find him. They're not doing their job. They're just harassing her, harassing Quentin, staring down her tank top, yelling homophobic slurs at her brother. And this kind of really spirals out of control. And it ends up with Lila having to go out to the swamp and look for her brother. And there's a lot of stuff about feminism, about the way her brother Quentin views her as this perfect princess, the way her brother Davis views her as this whore. Lila is neither of them. She's bi. And the way these views of femininity spiral out of control with the way that her brothers treat her and view her, and they really do spiral out of control in really horrific ways. The way the men treat her, the way the homophobia spirals, the way she finally has to run out to the swamp and get her brother, and how that goes. And spoiler alert, that goes really sideways too. So it's a lot of stuff about gender, a lot of stuff about being LGBTQ, being in a small southern town. It's a lot of themes I've touched on before in books like Inkvine. So you've got that haunted swamp, you've got the sexuality stuff. But it's very different from Inkvine in a lot of ways. I think Inkvine is a much brighter book than Blood Cypress. And
really?
yeah, so good.
Because I read Inkvine and I actually enjoyed it. And like what I was going to say was too, like one thing you do with your writing, which I love, is yes, you have this, horrible story that you put in there, but you do such a great job on developing your characters. Like when I read Inkvine, I could almost visualize the characters, how they looked, how they talked, how they moved, and that's amazing when an author does that.
Well, thank you. Like I try really hard to do that because I kind of see them in my head pretty well. So I try to bring that to the reader on the page. In a lot of ways, Lila is a lot weaker than Emmy. Emmy is the main character in Inkvine, and Emmy is very determined to get what she wants. Emmy is very determined to go out in that swamp, and she's going to do what she's going to do, God damn it, and she's going to get it. Lila's also determined, but Lila's also a lot more frightened than Emmy, I think. And Emmy is, or Lila is also a lot more willing to do what other people tell her. And that I think comes a lot from their socioeconomic backgrounds. Emmy has had to struggle her whole life because she's trapped in this cycle of poverty, whereas Lila is much better off socioeconomically. And so Lila is really wrapped in that, rich Southern girl milieu of you have to be a certain way and act a certain way and talk a certain way. And even if she's trying to rebel against that, there's still so much of it there, and it's so prevalent, and it's so hard to get out of. There's so much pressure. So, even trying to walk away from it is so incredibly difficult.
Now, and I have a question. Do you think it's hard for the two classes to relate to each other? Because, I mean, even throughout my life, I've had individuals. I grew up dirt poor, like poor. in small town in the Carolinas as well. And like, there's when people who came across my life who didn't live like that, and they assume that everybody does, went to private schools, went to trips, out of the country when they're young, and they assume that everybody lives that way. But then when you grow up poor, you automatically assume that everybody grew up poor. Like, and I think that's one of the things that's big in this country world is that I don't want to say silver spoon, but people who grew up, what's a nice word of saying it? They grew up without saying silver spoon. They grew up privileged, and people who grew up in poverty, it's like it's hard for them to relate to each other.
Let's get real here for a second.
Let's go.
So I did grow up poor. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily live in a trailer, but I didn't grow up with a lot of privilege. And then I got married, and you can look at my Instagram feed and see what I was doing this week and what my children were wearing, and they were all in matching seersucker, laying wreaths at Hollywood Cemetery for President James Monroe. So that's a little bit of whiplash that I have in my life. And that's a thing that has happened to me in this life. I have gone from a very poor background into a very privileged background. I have very much jumped. I have moved. And it is very true. It's very difficult for people in one class to relate to another, I've found. Because, when you grow up poor, you assume everybody grows up like that. You assume that, like, you don't have a conception of what it's like otherwise. Like, you just don't. You don't understand. Yeah. You have this vision of, like, rich people might have this or this, but you don't know what it looks like. Mm-hmm. You just don't know. Like, my house has 2 staircases now, right? Like, which is absurd, which is something I thought I would never have in this lifetime. Like, what the fuck? I have 2 staircases? Like, why do I need 2 fucking staircases in my house? That doesn't make sense. But anyway, like, but that was a thing that it wouldn't have occurred to me as a child that anybody would ever have, that a house would ever have, that why would you have that? Like, what would it be like to drive in a car that wasn't, like, kind of falling apart?
Yeah.
Like what would somebody who was privileged eat for lunch? Mm-hmm. Like, what would it be like? What would you do at night if you were privileged? When you came home from work, what would your day look like? That's not something you can comprehend. That's just not a worldview you have. Whereas if you're privileged, it's the same way. You don't know. Like, you don't know what it's like when you don't have enough money to, like, walk in the store and buy whatever you want. You don't get it. You don't get that, like, you have to price out, well, am I going to pay for groceries or am I going to pay for medicine? Oh, I can't do X or Y because I don't have the money. That doesn't occur to you. You don't get it. And so there is so little understanding of someone else's reality. And it's tragic.
It is. Because like growing up, the reason I knew I was poor, I'm telling you the time I knew I was poor, because, you come back from summer vacation in school and the first day is like, what did you do during vacation? Right. And I would hear kids say, oh, we went to Orlando, Florida, or like to Disney World and blah, blah, blah. And we went to Myrtle Beach or stuff like that. And I was like, holy shit, we didn't do nothing because my parents had to work every damn day of the fucking week just to keep the bare minimum, Mm-hmm. And I sat home with my sisters and watched Nickelodeon for the summer vacation. I stayed home. Like, we didn't have no vacation. So I was like, I cannot be the only person who says that because that makes me sound weird. So I would make up some type of elaborate vacation that never existed. because I didn't want to sound
Mm-hmm.
poor.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, I remember I knew I was poor when my dad worked for a steel mill, and the mill went on strike because they had a union, and my father literally could not put meat on the table, and he had to go hunting because he was a hunter, so we could have meat to eat at dinner. And we spent several months eating like pheasant and dove and stuff that my father could shoot in the woods for dinner, because otherwise there was not going to be literally any meat on my family's table.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, literally any, like not like lunch meat, like not like salami. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we're not talking about like oh, we won't have chicken for dinner, but there might be some turkey cut up in the crisper.
Yeah.
No, absolutely not. This wasn't a family that bought lunch meat, and that's what people don't fucking get. Because I say this and it's like, oh, but of course you had sliced turkey, right? Like you had deli meat. No, we didn't have fucking deli meat.
No.
Right? Because you don't buy deli meat when you're that poor. Okay.
A charcuterie board. I did not know what the fuck the charcuterie board was. I did not know that was until I was in my 30s. I did not like stuff like sushi and salmon and lobster. I did not have that shit until I was an adult. Like that was something
cheese. Feta cheese. Did not have feta cheese.
I didn't even know there was other kind of cheeses besides American cheese. Like I didn't even know there was other kind of luncheon meats besides, the bologna and the fucking nasty ham. I did not know there was pastrami and salami and
I didn't know there was pastrami
and all of that shit. I didn't know any of this stuff. Oh, what is that? Scallops? No. What's scallops? I don't know.
What the fuck is a scallop? I know, right? Right? You're like, what is this shit? I don't know.
I mean, and what is this?
The other thing people don't get when you're poor, you don't eat this kind of food.
No.
Like, you just don't. Like, you don't know. I remember I went to college and people were like, you don't eat X? And I'm like, no. Like, I'd never eaten like green spinach, like raw spinach, like a spinach salad. Like, no. When would I eat that? Why would I eat that? Like, that's like rabbit food. Like, no. A salad was like iceberg lettuce.
Yes, that's exactly what a salad.
It was just iceberg lettuce with maybe like crappy cheese on top of it and like ranch dressing. Like no. There wasn't like balsamic. What the fuck is balsamic? No.
I didn't even know there was all kind of delicious cheeses out there. I just knew American cheese. I did not know there was, like you said, feta and goat cheese and all.
I had never had goat. I didn't even know goats made cheese. I mean, come on.
I didn't know about that bougie shit. I didn't know about that bougie shit until I started making money in my late 20s.
Right?
Well, no, I did.
And the thing is, like, you fake it. I was trying to explain this to my kids today. We're driving into their homeschool co-op, and I'm trying to tell them, I'm like, when I started college, I felt so out of place because, like, I didn't know, like, when you sat down at a table, you put your napkin in your lap. And they were like, your mom didn't teach you basic manners? Like, they were, like, all scandalized. I'm like, baby, they didn't do that either. It wasn't that they didn't have, like, they didn't teach me. It's that wasn't a thing in our house. Mm-hmm. Like, that wasn't what you did. And they were like, what? They were like so taken aback. And I'm like, I didn't know what fork to use at dinner. And they were like,
there's only one type
they
of
were
fork.
Like, well, my youngest was like, well, I don't know either. And I'm like, well, number one, you go from the outside in. But number two, I said, like, yeah, but if you sat down with, like, say, like a group of professors or something, I said, you wouldn't be like weirded out. You would just like roll with it. They were like, oh yeah, we wouldn't care. And they wouldn't. They would just be like, oh, we're just in a nice restaurant, whatever. Whereas like when I was like 18 years old and I had to sit down and eat with like professors and stuff, I like wanted to die inside.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, like I'm having heart palpitations right now sitting in this like restaurant that is not like Olive Garden, you know? This is like slightly nicer than an Olive Garden, and I like want to flee in terror right now. I have a water glass, you know, like what do I do with it type stuff, you know? And like, you know, just the sheer terror that comes with like having to move from, you know, this place where like going on a nice date meant going to like Applebee's.
Yes.
To like, you know, and that sounds funny, but it's not. It's like
it is. It's what it. I mean, going to a buffet or Sizzler. I don't know if you know what Sizzler.
Sizzler. Oh yeah.
That was like going out to eat, like for us, like, you know, everyone to know. I mean, like, you know, I run across people, you know, say, oh, when I had a passport when I was, you know, a kid. It's like a passport. Yeah, I didn't get a passport until I was 30 years old. Like, I don't a passport. Where were you going as a kid? Like, wow. And like, because when you grow up poor, that's something that like a passport. I'm going outside the country. I'm lucky to even go to the next state, you know?
I know, like I don't even know how old I was when I first left the state. I'd have to like think about it, you know, and it would be depressing.
It is depressing.
Like, it would kind of like be like, oh shit, I don't want to tell anybody that, you know. Yeah. I mean, but yeah, like it was such a different world, and then people don't understand. Then you're like, usually it happens when you're like 18 because you go to college, right? If you're a smart kid,
that's where I learned all of the new stuff while I was in college.
You're a smart kid. You grow up poor. You're 18. You get shoved into college, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, what the fuck do I do? And there's nobody here to tell me how to do it because there's no etiquette classes. There's nobody that's going to tell you how to dress. Nobody's going to tell you how to talk. Nobody's going to tell you what kind of etiquette to use. You have to figure it all out. I'm like in my 40s, and I have finally gotten to the point where I don't feel like an idiot in these situations.
Because I grew up licking my fingers too. Like I think, and like, you know, then I went to college, and people are looking at me like I'm some kind of barbarian, you know, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I see people cutting their chicken with knives and little pieces and forth, and I was just like, like. And I'm looking at back, and I was definitely a caveman, but I didn't even realize I was a caveman because that's how I was raised to be a caveman.
Because it's such a different experience. It's so different, and it's awful because then these people are looking at you like, what's wrong with you? Yeah. And it's like, there's nothing wrong with me. This is a social moray.
Correct.
You know, this is a social thing. This isn't anything wrong. This isn't anything wrong or right. This is what a different class values. You know, like if a rich person walked into a bar, you know, in a lower class bar, people are going to look at them like they're an asshole. 100%. Because how are they going to behave? You know, they're not going to know the rules. They're not going to know, you know, they're going to walk in there and make a million faux pas. It's the same way. So, you know, that's how it works. And it's just, what does a certain social class value and what don't they value?
I agree. And that's probably why for the longest time, people dated and married in their class. Their class, because, you know, like, I mean, can you imagine if you grew up, you know, with a silver spoon in your mouth and you date somebody who was dirt poor? Like that, I don't think that will work out. I just don't. I don't think it will work out. Even that person grew up dirt poor and became successful, they will still, I feel like they would have different values and they would have different expectations. But because, like, the reason I grew up poor, and that's why I work so hard. That's why my work ethic. You know me, Liz. I work all the time, like more than I'm the busiest man you ever meet. because I don't like being poor. I don't want to be poor. I don't like that feeling. And it just it as an adult has driven me to become a workaholic.
Yeah, and no, I'm a workaholic too. Like I write constantly. Like I write constantly. I work constantly. Like I woke up at 5. I wrote until, probably about 9 this morning. I took a break to get my kids to school. I started writing again when I got there. I wrote until about 1:30. I realized I didn't have the notebook I needed, so I took a break and did some reading and felt horrifically guilty that I wasn't still working and I wasn't still working because I didn't have the material I needed to work. But there was still so much guilt there. Like I should be working, I should be working, I should be working, I should be working. But I mean, I didn't have everything, so I couldn't do it,
Yeah.
So, and what am I doing now? It's whatever time of night it is, and I'm working,
Yep.
technically working, even though I love talking to you,
I know. By the way,
so-
it's 11:30 at night here, and we're having an interview.
I know, right? And we're doing
This is how we work. Yes.
This is how we do it. Like the two of us, right? So, and that's what I do though. I write on the weekends. I write early in the mornings. Like I write. And, and I'll catch myself. I'll be like, I need to slow down. Like I need to get outside. I need to do something else because if my children are not here, if my husband is not here, I will forget to eat. I will write all day. When my husband leaves town and my kids aren't here, he has to call me and DoorDash me food and make sure that I am not like literally working myself to pieces because I will.
Yeah.
Because it's like pathological. Like it's not healthy. Because I'll alternate like at this point because I review so much, because I review for I shouldn't say it right now. I review for Cemetery Dance magazine, not the publisher, the magazine, not the publisher, the magazine, with everything that's going on. And Night Tide, I review for Night Tide too. So I do review a lot for a lot of places, not just Cemetery Dance. So because I review so much, and I'm always reading, so I do alternate now between the writing and the reading a lot more than I used to. But so it's just constant. It's constant. It's like reading and writing and reading. I'm writing. I'm reading. I'm writing.
And that's the same way because I have a lot of YouTubers that come to me and say, Travis, how did you become so how did your channel become so successful in 2 years? What can I do to get the same growth or whatever? And I'm like, you probably can't because I have an addictive personality, and to do what I do, it would drive the average person crazy because I obsess over this channel. I am absolutely obsessed. Like I literally I make little calendars like this on exactly everything that's going to be labeled on every single show. Like I obsess with the show, and I had to take a step back because I was, in the beginning, I was on interviews like every fucking night, and I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And I've scaled it back to one night a week, but still, that's even a lot. So I mean, my way of working or succeeding definitely probably wouldn't work for the most because I'm a workaholic. I'll stay up till midnight and just work, and that's not most people work habits or that's not. I'm not saying that you can't be successful and like not do what I do. It just works for me.
No, people ask me, they're like, oh, how did you get so successful? It's like, because I wake up every morning at 5 a.m. and I write my ass off and I keep doing it and I don't stop. That's how I'm successful. That's how I became such a good writer. Do you know how many words I have on my Google Docs? Probably about 5 million. Thank you.
Yeah. And that's what it takes. I'm telling you, that's what it takes in the beginning. In the beginning, I don't care what you do. You just have to fucking grind.
You just have to do it. You just have to do it. You just
grind.
have
to keep doing it every single day, and you get better and better and better, and you get better at it. And I mean, I'm pretty sure since our first interview, you have seen the growth I've had. And
your growth has been insane. It's been insane, and it's because you work your ass off, and I know that.
and I just
Like
do
I've
it
seen how
every
hard you work.
single boom, boom, boom. I constantly do it, and I perfected it. I'm still perfected it. But even since our first interview, I even see how comfortable you are, even with your interview. Like, it's just like second nature to you now doing interviews.
Oh no, I'm so much more used to it now just because like that's what you have to do. And I see how much more comfortable you are with it too.
Mm-hmm.
And I see how much you're used to it as well. Like it's kind of interesting
Yeah,
actually. Like if you go back and watch our first interview
exactly.
and you watch this one, it's like, oh God, these are
Yes,
almost two different people doing this
two different people.
now.
Two different people.
That was only like a year ago.
It was literally a year ago, and like
Yeah,
I'm
it
telling you,
was.
it's like this is. But I'm telling you, like when I take days off from, or take a significant amount of time from doing interviews, it's hard for me to get back into the groove.
God, isn't it?
It's hard for me to get back in the groove. I have to
Mhm.
be doing it at least. I have to do an interview at least once a week. I have to. If I take a week off, we're going to see some shitty. You're going to see some shitty interviews for
Yep.
about 2 weeks until I get back into my groove. And like, I just have to do this all the time to stay sharp.
Is this an ADHD thing?
It 100% is. That's what it is
Yeah.
for me. Yeah,
Yeah, because I do the same thing. I do the same thing with writing. Like if
I'm
we went on
obsessed with this channel.
yep, we went on vacation and I just didn't have, it was my in-laws got us a vacation house and they were with us. So we were at Tybee in Georgia and it was this gorgeous, this gorgeous place, but it was like kind of like an apartment and they were with us and I have 3 kids. So my husband and I were in the back bedroom. My 2 sons had one bedroom. My in-laws had the other bedroom, and my oldest son was sleeping in a pull out in the living room, which makes it sound really crowded, but the place was like pretty decent size. So it wasn't like crowded. It just, all the spaces had somebody sleeping in them, if that makes sense, at night. So there was no like space that I could write privately in the mornings. There was no and there was no place that I could go to be alone because my husband was sharing a room with me. So I didn't get any writing done the whole time. Like nothing, literally nothing. I did no writing. So when I came back, it was so hard for me to start again because that was the longest time I had gone without writing in literal years. Like years.
Wow.
And I got back to Richmond and I was like, what the fuck am I going to do? What am I doing? And I actually went from the novel I had been working on to editing a novel, which I'm still working on now, actually. I'm in edits for the novel I had finished already because I couldn't do it. Like I couldn't work on what I was working on. I had to do something that was a little easier to ease into because the idea of like jumping in and making like generating new text was just too daunting. It was too much. I couldn't do it.
Yeah, and it's I think it's the ADHD. I think that's something that we share. By the way, Elizabeth, I don't know if I told you something. I was absolutely high for our first interview. I was fucking stoned out of my fucking mind for that interview. And by the way, if anybody want to rewatch it, is at the end you can rewatch that. You can watch that interview. I was stoned out of my fucking mind for the interview, and I stopped getting high before my interviews because by the way, they're great interviews with me high, but like I don't know. I feel like I'm better at doing it when I'm not under the influence of marijuana.
I don't know. I don't think I would do a great interview when I was stoned.
We should do one together. We should do one together.
I think I would be incoherent. I would be like, no, I wouldn't be good at that. My problem is now that I'm 40, it has not quite sunken in that no one can tell. You know what I mean? That like,
yeah,
I could theoretically just get high and like no one would know I'm 40 years old. Like nobody's going to know. I can keep my shit together now. So like I could be totally high right now. No one would know, right?
I would know. I think I
No,
would.
you would know, but like nobody is really going to be able to tell. Like my train of thought is going to be pretty normal. Like I might throw out like a non sequitur here or there, but like it wouldn't be bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But in my head, I would be screaming, "Everyone knows
Yes.
you're
Paranoid.
clearly high." You know.
I'll,
So whenever I try to do this, like my brain just starts screaming, "Everyone can tell you are acting so fucking stoned right now." And I get so paranoid.
yes.
And I finally realized that I do this. Like my husband finally looked at me. He was like, "You realize you don't seem high at all, right, honey?" And I was like, "Wait, I don't." He's like, "No, baby, you don't. No, baby, not at all.
So
You're fine."
I'm the same way as you because I did an interview recently. And at the end of the interview, by the way, I popped the edible and they were late for the interview. And then the edible kicked in like right
Oh
when
God.
the interview. And it was fucking like, and I felt like I was talking a mile a minute. Like I was like, oh my God, I am fucking clearly high and they know I'm high. And this is, and then in the interview, I said, by the way, I apologize. I'm completely stoned right now. And they're like, really? That was the greatest interview we ever done. We know you're high. I'm like, really? So maybe people don't know I'm high. I just think, like you do, subconsciously, that people think that I'm high or know I'm high, or I'm acting high, and maybe it's not noticeable.
Yeah, I mean, I was at one point, one of my friends, swear to God, always has the strongest intoxicants. It's something about the stuff from Missouri, right? I swear the stuff from Missouri is like so high octane. Okay. So I'll have like one hit and I'm under the table. Or I feel like I'm under the table. Actually not, but I feel like I am. And I'll be like walking around. I'll be like, my brain will start screaming, "Everyone knows Broadbent. They all know Broadbent." You know, and I'm like, and I'll be standing in a room like, you know.
What do you think?
My brain is screaming at me. Meanwhile, like probably no one can tell, right?
Yeah,
And I'm just like having a mental freak out in my head, and everyone is like, "Why does Eliza have that weird look on her face right now? Is she okay?" Like,
I need to do a top 5 best interviews stoned. Like I did stone. Like I know them on top of my head. Yours is one of them, and because I say all the time, I said you and Rebecca, I love interviewing both of you. Like you two are like my favorite lady authors to interview. It's just so much fun. It's just the back and forth is just so natural. That's why I asked both of you to have shows on my channel because I find you both of you are so entertaining. I could sit here for hours and talk to you all.
no, you're fun to talk to. Like, I love coming on your show because you are awesome to talk to, and I always feel bad because like we always like will cut it and then we keep talking. Yes. Like we end the recording and then we keep talking. Yes. Or, I'll come on and we start talking and then we're like, oh, we better start recording at some point.
Start recording. Yeah.
We better start recording.
3-hour process.
We gotta start recording now.
We talk for another hour about, oh, did you hear about this and that? Like, it's so much fun.
No, it's so much fun to always come on. I love coming on here. And, and it's so nice to be able to like share this with everybody. But, it's just, you're just easy to talk to. So I don't know why people would get bad interviews with you, because you are like really easy to shoot the shit with.
Yeah, I mean, I can shoot the shit with anybody. I mean, not anybody, but I mean, the ones that I've ran into are people who are strong introverts. And I'm an introvert, but I've trained myself to be an extrovert. But like strong introverts, and like in order to be in any type of indie horror type thing, you have to be able to sell yourself. And if you come on to, you have to be able to sell yourself. So you have to come on a podcast or whatever you're doing, and you have to be someone likable, and like that's my job. Even someone who comes on completely new, shy, I try to make them feel comfortable. I try to try to give them the best interview they can. And like,
Mhm.
I think we were talking about it beforehand. I can determine how long I can go with this person based on their, their comfortability. This is not for everyone. Not everybody is a good interviewer or interviewee or
Oh,
not
no, they
everybody,
are
as
not.
we know, not
As
everybody's
we
definitely.
know,
Yes.
some people are gonna clam up. Some people
Yes.
are gonna just start talking, and they're gonna keep talking,
And just
and they're gonna keep
ramble.
talking, and they're gonna say random shit, and you're gonna try to get
Yeah.
a word in edgewise. You're gonna try to steer it. You're gonna be like, "What? Well, maybe we can talk
Yeah.
about this." Oh no, we can't. Oh shit, they're gonna keep talking.
Yes.
Well, wait, what about this? Oh no, they're gonna keep going again, and you're like, "Oh shit,
Yes.
nobody wants to hear about this."
All right.
I'm losing viewers. I'm losing viewers. I'm losing viewers. I'm losing viewers.
Eliza, I'm a
Before we go, really quick,
yes.
I have something I need to show everybody.
Oh,
Because he came over.
saw them. Look at the. Oh,
This is, which one is this? This is Tech. He's visiting right now. We have 3 foster kittens, and which I highly recommend, by the way, for your mental health to get foster kittens, because the horrors have descended upon us, and they are wonderful for your mental health, because I go upstairs and play with kittens. So it's amazing. And I don't have to like be as responsible for them as I would if they belonged to me. Like, they're not mine long term. I can give them back. It's amazing. So yeah, foster kittens. Highly recommended. Ow, get your claws out of my leg.
Definitely.
Other than that.
And listen, Eliza, listen, I'm gonna ask you a controversial, fun question. Are you willing to play along?
I am willing to play along.
I am not going to name names. I'm gonna give initials. Okay, it's a hypothetical question. You have to partner up with one of these individuals to work on a book or a project together. Who is it going to be? Is it going to be CP? The initials are CP, or AJ?
It's gonna be AJ. It would
Why
never be
AJ?
CP.
Why AJ?
Because it's not CP. Because it's not CP. It's my answer.
At least you don't have to worry about AJ being inappropriate to you.
Basically, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Elizabeth, where can everyone find you?
You can find me at Instagram, TikTok, and Threads at EA Broadbent. You can find me on the web at http://www.writerelizabethbroadbent.com. Ow, you're climbing my leg. And you can find me on Facebook. And probably the best place to find me is sorry, the kitten is distracting me. Is on Instagram. I'm probably on there the most. You can also find me on Blue Sky.
Awesome. And you also can find her here on the Horror Room with the Paranormal Experience.
Yes, you can.
By the way, go down in the description box, and the website link to Raw Dog Screaming, by the way, it's not a porn site.com is in there, and you can grab your copy of Blood Cypress. Elizabeth, it's been a blast. I'm gonna see you next week.
See you next week.
We're gonna be back with the Paranormal Experience.
We will.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for coming to the Horror Room. I'm Travis Bruce. That's Elizabeth Broadbent, and that's Kitty, who just ran away.
That is Kitty.
We'll see you next time. Take care.